The night had a pulse of its own. Neon lights bled across the crowded city street, reflecting on puddles of rainwater, painting the night in wild strokes of pink, red, and electric blue. The air carried the intoxicating mix of perfume, smoke, and something unnamed that always came alive when the city refused to sleep. I wasn't supposed to be there. I wasn't supposed to wander into the kind of place where trouble clung to the walls, where eyes followed every movement, where one reckless choice could change everything. But Trouble had always known how to find me. And that night, Trouble was wearing red lipstick. She stood at the bar like she owned it, a woman with sharp edges softened by the dim light. Her hair fell over one shoulder in loose waves, her leather jacket unzipped just enough to tease the glimpse of a silk camisole beneath. She didn't just look at people, she looked through them. And when her eyes met mine, it felt like she had reached into my chest and set something on fire. I tried to look away, but my body betrayed me. Step by step, I was drawn toward her, like gravity had rewritten its rules just for us. The music throbbed, bass rattling the floor, but I heard nothing except the way my heart skipped when she smirked at me. "You look lost," she said, her voice a velvet blade. "Maybe I am," I replied, words slipping before I could filter them. Or maybe I just found what I didn't know I was looking for. Her laugh was low, dangerous, but it carried a sweetness that made me want to taste it. She leaned in, close enough for me to catch the scent of whiskey and wildflowers clinging to her skin. "You shouldn't play with fire," she whispered. "It burns." "Maybe I like the burn," I shot back, surprising myself with my boldness. And then it happened. She tilted her head, her lips brushing against mine, not fully kissing, just testing, teasing, letting the tension build until I thought I'd break apart. And when she finally pressed into me, it was like falling into a storm. Her lips tasted like chaos, sweet and bitter, dangerous and addictive all at once. It wasn't a kiss, it was a dare, a promise, and a warning all tangled together. The world spun faster, the crowd fading into nothing. I didn't know her name, I didn't know her story, but I knew I would follow her into the fire without a second thought. Her kiss lingered on my lips long after she pulled away, leaving me dizzy, trembling, and desperate for more. She smiled like she knew exactly what she was doing to me, like she had written the script to this moment and I was just playing my part. "Come with me," she said, not as a question, but as a command. Her hand slipped into mine, warm, firm, unapologetic, and the crowd seemed to part for her as she pulled me through the bar and out into the night. The rain had turned into a fine mist, clinging to our skin, glittering under the neon signs. The world outside felt quieter, though my heart was a drumbeat that refused to calm down. "Where are we going?" I asked, breathless. She glanced back at me, her smirk curving in the glow of the streetlight. "Do you always ask so many questions before an adventure?" Her words made me laugh, but the sound was shaky, betraying the way my nerves sparked like live wires. She stopped suddenly, pulling me close until I was pressed against the brick wall of a building. The cold surface behind me was a sharp contrast to the heat radiating from her body as she leaned in. "Or do you just like pretending you're innocent when you're not?" she whispered, her lips grazing the shell of my ear. My breath hitched, my body answering before my mind could catch up. "Maybe I'm not as innocent as I look." Her eyes lit up at my words, hunger glinting in the dark. She kissed me again, harder this time, deeper, like she wanted to consume every ounce of hesitation I had left. I clutched her jacket, pulling her closer, afraid she might vanish if I let go. The taste of her was wild, whiskey, smoke, and something unnameable that burned in my chest. She kissed like chaos, yes, but also like freedom, and I was already addicted. Her hand trailed down my side, slow and deliberate, sending shivers rushing through me. The city around us blurred. There were only her lips, her touch, her body pressed against mine as if the night itself belonged to us. "You have no idea what you've started," she murmured between kisses. "Then don't stop," I whispered back, surprising myself with how much I meant it. She laughed softly, a dangerous, beautiful sound, and pulled me away from the wall. We wandered through the streets, still hand in hand, the city alive around us, but somehow quieter now, as if even the chaos of neon and noise couldn't compete with the storm brewing between us. We ended up under the awning of a closed bookstore, the rain falling harder just beyond the edge of the roof. She leaned against the glass window, pulling me against her, the wet strands of her hair sticking to her face in the most irresistible way. "I still don't know your name," I said, almost breathless. She traced her finger along my jawline, her touch light, teasing. "Maybe names don't matter tonight. Maybe all that matters is this." And with that, she kissed me again, slow at first, tender, almost delicate, before deepening it into something untamed. The rain kept falling just beyond the awning, droplets splashing against the pavement like sparks on fire. She kissed me as if the world outside didn't exist, her lips demanding, relentless, yet leaving me craving more every time she pulled away. I could barely catch my breath, but I didn't want to. Breathing felt overrated compared to tasting her again. Her hand slid to the back of my neck, fingers threading into my hair, holding me close like she had no intention of letting me escape. I didn't resist. I couldn't. Every ounce of me wanted to drown in her chaos, to let her rewrite every rule I had ever lived by. When she finally pulled back, her forehead rested against mine, both of us panting, the heat of her breath mingling with mine. Her eyes, dark, wild, dangerous, searched me like she was trying to decide if I could handle her storm. "You're trembling," she whispered. "Maybe I'm just alive for the first time," I answered, surprising myself with how raw my voice sounded. Her smile broke through the shadows like lightning, bright, sudden, and unforgettable. She brushed her thumb across my bottom lip, still swollen from her kiss. "Careful," she said softly. "Chaos isn't kind. Once you taste it, you'll never want anything else." "Then let it ruin me," I breathed. Something shifted in her gaze, a flicker of vulnerability hidden beneath the fire. It was gone almost as quickly as it appeared, replaced by that smirk again, that dangerous charm that drew me in like a moth to flame. She tugged me closer until my body was pressed against hers, until I could feel her heartbeat racing with mine. The city hummed around us, but all I felt was her. Her hands, her lips, the rhythm of her body moving against mine like music only we could hear. She kissed me again, softer this time, slower, like she was savoring me, tasting every moment, dragging out the ache between us. When we finally pulled apart, rain dripped from the edges of the awning, echoing like applause against the pavement. She tilted her head, eyes glinting with mischief. "Still think you're not afraid of fire?" she asked. I met her gaze, steady despite the tremor in my chest. "I think I've been waiting my whole life to burn." And then she laughed, low and throaty, the sound wrapping around me like silk and smoke. She kissed me one last time under the bookstore shelter before pulling me into the rain, where the world blurred and our chaos became unstoppable. Her lips tasted like fire, like danger, like freedom. Her lips tasted like chaos. And I knew I'd follow her anywhere. The rain soaked through our clothes as we stepped into it, but neither of us cared. Her laughter cut through the storm, sharp and intoxicating, and I realized I would chase that sound for the rest of my life if I had the chance. The city blurred into streaks of neon and wet pavement as she pulled me down the street, hand gripping mine with a certainty that made me feel like I belonged to her already. We ducked into an alleyway glowing with the red light of a flickering sign. She pushed me against the wall, raindrops clinging to her lashes, her lips parting as if she were about to confess something dangerous. Instead, she kissed me again, deep, reckless, the kind of kiss that left bruises on the soul. My fingers tangled in her wet hair, pulling her closer, desperate to close the space between us, to fuse myself into whatever chaos she carried inside. She broke the kiss suddenly, leaving me gasping, her eyes locked on mine with a heat that sent shivers crawling down my spine. "You don't even know me," she said, her voice low, almost trembling despite the confidence in her stance. "Maybe I don't need to," I whispered back. "I know what I feel when you touch me. Isn't that enough tonight?" Her chest rose and fell quickly, like she was waging a war inside herself. Then, slowly, she smiled, the kind of smile that promised both danger and salvation. "You're braver than you look." I smirked, leaning closer. Or maybe I'm just reckless. Perfect, she murmured, before kissing me again, harder than before, like my recklessness gave her permission to unravel completely. Time stopped existing. There was only her mouth, her body pressed against mine, her hands exploring my waist with a hunger that made me dizzy. Every kiss was a collision, every touch a spark in the storm. She kissed me like she wanted to leave her mark on my skin, on my soul, to make sure I'd never forget her. When she finally pulled back, her forehead rested against mine, her breath hot against my lips. "You taste like trouble," she whispered. I laughed breathlessly. "Funny. I was about to say the same about you." Her grin widened, mischievous and wild. "Then maybe we deserve each other tonight." The words hung between us, heavy with promise. And as the rain poured harder, soaking us completely, I realized she was right. For one night, for this night, the world didn't matter. Rules didn't matter. All that mattered was her lips, her chaos, and the fire she had lit inside me. And so I kissed her again, under the flickering neon sign, in the middle of the storm, knowing that even if the morning brought regrets, I would never regret this moment, because her lips tasted like chaos, and I had never felt more alive. The storm around us raged, but her lips were the only storm I cared about. The alley glowed with fractured light from the flickering neon, the sound of rain hitting metal and stone echoing like a drumbeat. She kissed me until my lungs burned, until my fingers trembled against her damp jacket. Every second with her felt like falling, wild, terrifying, but exhilarating in a way I couldn't resist. She pulled back just enough to look at me, her hand sliding down to rest against my waist. Her touch was firm, grounding, even though her eyes still carried that dangerous spark. "You don't understand," she murmured. "I ruin people." "Maybe I want to be ruined," I whispered back, my voice breaking with the honesty of it. Her lips curved into a smile, soft but devastating. She leaned in again, kissing me slower this time, drawing it out, making me ache with every second. It wasn't just passion. It was something deeper, something that felt like she was stripping me down past all my walls, making me bare to the bone. I shivered against her, not from the cold, but from the way she made me feel like I was unraveling piece by piece, and somehow I wanted to keep unraveling for her. The rain had plastered her hair against her cheek, her mascara smudged slightly under her eyes, but she had never looked more perfect. Wild. Untamed. Beautiful in the kind of way that made you ache, because you knew you could never own it, only experience it. She traced her finger across my lips, her breath warm despite the storm. "You're dangerous too," she said softly. "You don't even know it." I caught her hand in mine, pressing a kiss against her fingertips. "Then we're even." For a moment, she stared at me as though she were memorizing my face, like she wanted to carve me into memory before the night could slip away. Then she laughed, a soft, low laugh that wrapped around me like silk. She grabbed my hand, pulling me out of the alley and back into the rain. We ran down the street, soaked and breathless, until we found ourselves under the canopy of a closed cafe. We collapsed against each other, laughing, dripping, our breaths coming in ragged gasps. She pressed her forehead to mine again, and in that quiet moment, with the storm still raging around us, I realized something terrifying. This wasn't just lust. This wasn't just chaos. This was something deeper clawing at me, something I wasn't sure I could let go of. She kissed me again, slow and deliberate, as though she already knew I was thinking too much. "Don't overthink it," she whispered against my lips. "Just feel it." And I did. I let go. I let the storm swallow us. I let her lips drown me. I let her chaos seep into my veins until I wasn't sure where I ended and she began. Her lips tasted like whiskey and rain, like danger and freedom, like every rule I had ever been too afraid to break. And as the night carried us deeper into its arms, I knew one thing for certain: I would never be the same again. The rain began to soften, falling in a steady hush that seemed to quiet the world around us. Beneath the cafe canopy, we stood in a bubble of stillness, our laughter slowly fading into silence, replaced by the rhythm of our breathing. She leaned against the wall, pulling me into her arms as if it were the most natural thing in the world. My cheek rested against her damp shoulder, the scent of rain mixing with the faint trace of whiskey on her skin. For a while, neither of us spoke. It wasn't the silence of strangers, it was something deeper, heavier, almost intimate. My hands found her waist, and hers stayed firm around me, holding me there like I was something worth keeping safe, even if only for tonight. You feel it too, don't you? I finally whispered. Her hand stilled on my back. Feel what? This, whatever this is. It's not just a kiss. Not just chaos. She tilted her head back, exhaling slowly. For the first time since I met her, she looked uncertain, like she was standing on the edge of something she hadn't expected. You shouldn't read into it, she said softly, though her voice lacked conviction. People like me don't stay. We burn bright, and then we disappear. I pulled back just enough to see her face, her eyes shadowed with something fragile beneath the fire. Then disappear tomorrow, I whispered, brushing my thumb over her lips. But don't disappear tonight. Her gaze softened, the sharpness in her eyes dimming into something warmer, something that almost looked like surrender. And when she kissed me again, it wasn't wild, it was tender. Slow. Careful, even. The kind of kiss that carried a weight far heavier than chaos. Her lips moved against mine with gentleness that undid me more than passion ever could. She kissed me like she wanted me to remember, like she was leaving something of herself behind. My body melted into hers, my hands tangled in her damp hair, and for the first time, I felt the storm inside her ease, if only for a moment. When she pulled back, her lips lingered against mine, her forehead pressed to mine as if she couldn't quite let go. You're dangerous, she whispered, her voice breaking. Not me. You. Why? I breathed. Because you make me want to stay. Her confession hung in the air, fragile and raw. My chest tightened, my heart aching with something I couldn't name. I wanted to tell her I felt the same, that I didn't care if she was fire and chaos, that I would gladly burn if it meant being in her arms. But the words stayed trapped in my throat, too heavy to spill in the quiet of the night. Instead, I kissed her again, slow, deliberate, sealing the truth we couldn't say aloud. And she kissed me back with that same tenderness, the chaos dimmed, replaced by something even more dangerous. Because chaos burns. But tenderness? Tenderness lingers. And in that moment, I realized I wasn't afraid of either. The city had quieted, the storm easing into a drizzle that pattered softly against the canopy. The world beyond us blurred into shadows and neon glow, but in her arms, I felt more awake than I ever had before. Every nerve in my body buzzed with the memory of her kisses, the warmth of her touch, and the dangerous possibility that this night was more than it seemed. She brushed a strand of wet hair from my face, her fingers trailing down my cheek with surprising gentleness. You don't know what you're doing to me, she whispered, almost like a confession. Maybe I do, I whispered back, my voice trembling, but steady enough to meet her gaze. Or maybe I just feel the same. Her jaw tightened as though she was fighting something inside her. Then she leaned in, kissing me again. But this time, it wasn't tender. It was fire. Urgent. Desperate. The kind of kiss that steals the air from your lungs and leaves you dizzy. My back hit the wall, her body pressing into mine, her hands framing my face as if she needed to hold me in place, to claim me completely before the night slipped away. The passion between us surged like the storm returning, wild and relentless. I clung to her, pulling her closer, my fingers digging into the fabric of her jacket as if I could anchor myself in her chaos. Every kiss deepened, every touch bled into hunger, and for a moment, I forgot the world entirely. There was only her lips, her breath, her heartbeat pounding in rhythm with mine. She pulled back just enough to whisper against my mouth, her voice rough with desire. You're driving me insane. Good, I breathed. Because you're doing the same to me. Her laugh was low, ragged, and cut off by another kiss, harder than the last. The drizzle seeped in under the canopy, dampening our clothes again, but it only added to the wildness of it all. We were a mess, wet hair, smeared lipstick, flushed skin. And yet, I had never felt more beautiful, more alive, more seen. Her lips moved down to my jaw, then to my neck, leaving a trail of fire that made my knees weak. I gasped, clutching her tighter, the sound swallowed by the rain. She pulled back suddenly, her eyes searching mine, raw and vulnerable beneath the intensity. "This isn't just a game to you, is it?" she asked, almost afraid of the answer. "No," I whispered, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might break free. "Not even close." Her hand trembled slightly against my cheek, her chaos flickering into something softer, more fragile. She kissed me again, slower now, but no less intense, like she was pouring every unspoken truth into me, letting me taste the parts of her she couldn't say aloud. And in that kiss, I realized something terrifying. Chaos wasn't just fire and danger. Chaos was falling hard and fast, with no safety net. And I was already falling for her. Her lips tasted like chaos. And for the first time in my life, I didn't want to be saved from it. The storm had nearly passed, leaving only the soft drizzle and the hum of wet streets around us. Neon signs flickered lazily, their colors smeared across the pavement like a painting washed by rain. For the first time since the night began, there was quiet, not just in the city, but between us. She still held me against the wall, her breath warm against my skin, our bodies pressed so close I could feel every rise and fall of her chest. Yet the urgency of before was gone, replaced by something heavier, something that lingered like the aftertaste of wine, sweet, dark, and impossible to ignore. Her hand slid down from my face to rest against my heart. She said nothing, but her eyes followed the way it pounded beneath her palm. The smirk she had worn for most of the night had vanished, leaving her expression raw, unguarded. "You're dangerous," she murmured again, softer this time. Not because I tempted her into passion, but because I made her pause. Because I made her feel. I swallowed hard, trying to steady my voice. "Why does it scare you so much to stay in one moment?" Her gaze broke from mine, darting toward the glowing street beyond us like she was looking for escape. "Because I've never been good at staying," she said finally. "I know how to light fires, but I don't know how to live in the ashes." Something in me ached at her words. I reached for her hand, intertwining our fingers, grounding her back to me. "Then don't think about tomorrow," I whispered. "Don't think about the ashes. Just think about now." She looked back at me, and for a heartbeat, the chaos in her eyes softened. She kissed me again, not like fire, not like destruction, but like surrender. Slow, lingering, her lips moving against mine as if she were memorizing me, as if she were terrified I'd disappear if she didn't hold on long enough. Her forehead pressed against mine as we broke apart, both of us breathless. "You don't know what you're asking for," she said, her voice trembling. "Maybe not," I admitted. "But I know what I'm feeling. And I'd rather feel this once than spend the rest of my life safe and empty." Her lips curved into the faintest smile, though her eyes shone with something that looked like pain. She kissed the corner of my mouth, tender, almost reverent. "You make chaos feel like home," she whispered. The words unraveled me. I pulled her into me, wrapping my arms around her as if I could shield her from the storm still lingering in her own heart. She let me, resting her head against my shoulder, her body trembling in a way that had nothing to do with the rain. For a long while, we stood like that, two women in the middle of a sleeping city, clinging to each other as if the night might shatter if we let go. And in that moment, I realized the truth. Chaos wasn't just her. It wasn't just fire and danger and recklessness. It was this. This terrifying closeness, this fragile intimacy, this possibility that maybe, just maybe, chaos could turn into love. The city was quiet now, wrapped in the hush that comes just after rain. Water dripped from rooftops, pooling on the pavement, catching stray reflections of neon lights that refused to die. She stood in front of me, her hand still in mine, her eyes searching mine with a hunger she tried to disguise as restraint. But I could see it, the ache, the need, the chaos still burning beneath her calm. "I should walk away," she said softly, almost to herself. "It would be safer." I stepped closer, erasing the last inches between us. "Then don't be safe." Her lips parted, her breath uneven, and in that pause, the whole world seemed to tilt. Then she gave in. She kissed me again, fierce and unrestrained, like every wall she'd built had finally crumbled. I gasped into her mouth, clutching her as though I might drown without her. The taste of her was everything wild and sweet, bitter and soft, like contradictions made flesh. Her lips still tasted like chaos, and I realized I never wanted anything calmer. Her hands roamed my back, pulling me tighter until there was no space left, no separation, just heat and need and the sound of rain dripping around us. I tangled my fingers in her hair, tugging gently, and she groaned softly into the kiss, the sound vibrating through me until my knees weakened. She pressed me against the cafe wall, her body flush against mine, her kiss deepening until it felt like the world was collapsing around us. Every second was fire, every touch a spark. I could feel her heartbeat against my chest, frantic, desperate, and I knew mine matched it. When she finally pulled away, her lips hovered just above mine, both of us gasping for breath. "You're going to ruin me," she whispered, her voice raw. "Then let's ruin each other," I breathed. Her laughter broke through, low, shaky, almost disbelieving, before she kissed me again, slower this time, but no less intense. It was the kind of kiss that carried meaning, the kind that made promises without words. Her chaos wasn't something to be feared, it was something to be held, embraced, devoured. And I wanted every piece of it. She trailed kisses down my neck, her lips warm against my damp skin, sending shivers racing down my spine. My hands gripped her tighter, nails digging into her jacket, grounding myself in her storm. She whispered something against my collarbone, too soft to catch, but I felt the truth in it anyway. When she pulled back again, her eyes were blazing, but her voice was quiet. "You're not supposed to matter this much." I cupped her face in my hands, forcing her to meet my gaze. "Then stop fighting it. Just let it be what it is." For a moment, she froze, caught between fear and desire. Then, finally, she gave in completely, pressing her lips to mine with a tenderness that nearly broke me. It was passion, yes, but it was also something deeper, something dangerously close to love. The night held us there, two souls tangled in fire and rain, kissing as if tomorrow didn't exist.